A teaching from inside Patanjali's words. Explore the Heart of Yoga by Reverend Jaganath Carrera. Sutra 224. Ignorance is the cause of confusing the seer and the seen as one. Sutra 225. Without ignorance, this confusion ceases to exist. The seer stands apart from the seen as the self. This is liberation, Kaivalya. The word abhavat in this sutra is translated as without. In the world of philosophy, it is also the presentation of a proof that something based on the non-existence of something else. For example, if there are no mice, there must be a cat. If there is liberation, there must be no confusion. The word hanam in this sutra is translated as stands apart. To stand apart indicates distinctive qualities that mark something as different from other things. And the word Kaivalyam in this sutra is translated as pure or free. Kaivalya is often translated as isolation or aloneness. The idea here is that Kaivalya results from isolating, discriminating the difference between the ego-based self that seems to have consciousness as a property and the pure consciousness that is Purusha. In this sense, Kaivalya is liberation or release from ignorance and the suffering it brings. Kaivalya is also described by Patanjali as the return to the origin of the gunas. The same sutra goes on to say, Kaivalya is the establishment of the nature and power or of higher awareness. The mind is no longer limited to being the holder of ignorance and the center of self-identity. Kaivalya can also refer to pure seeing, the experience of the Purusha's innate capacity for unconditioned, unlimited, unchanging knowing of the contents of the mind. Kaivalya is said to be experienced when the sattva of individual mind reaches a state of purity analogous with that of the Purusha. Sutra 226. The remedy that removes ignorance is an unwavering flow of discriminative discernment, Viveka, that perceives the difference between the seer and the seen. The first word in the sutra, Viveka, is translated as unwavering discriminative discernment. The nature of Viveka is sattva, clear, luminous, and tranquil. Viveka, in the context of yoga, is the mental state that is capable of discerning what is true from what is false, what is permanent from what is fleeting, and what brings suffering from what does not. In its highest state, Viveka is the ability to discern the self, big S, from the self, little s. The power to separate the invisible spirit from the visible world. It is having clear, objective vision, the ability to distinguish and classify things according to their real properties. Patanjali will tell us that Viveka is the method to remove ignorance and the pain it causes. We might think that such a vital piece of information would appear much earlier in the text. Most likely, it appears here because to attain the necessary discernment to realize that dukkha is a pervasive, persistent fact of life is not easy. It requires that the mind has been well informed, has attained some degree of non-attachment, has learned to deal with obstacles, has become grounded in attitudes that cultivate clarity of awareness in daily life, and has attained a good measure of contemplative focus. This approach to attaining Viveka is expanded beginning with Sutra 228, the prelude to the 8 limbs of yoga. So we'll read just the 3 sutras once more here. Ignorance is the cause of confusing the seer and the seen as one. Without ignorance, this confusion ceases to exist. The seer stands apart from the seen as the self. This is liberation, Kaivalya. The remedy that removes ignorance is an unwavering flow of discriminative discernment, Viveka, that perceives the difference between the seer and the seen.